Welcome to the Total Human Protocol podcast. This is an opportunity that I take to sit with practitioners of all different types and healthcare providers and people that are into the stuff that I like to talk about. What we've done at our office is created something called the Total Human Protocol, which gives all these different options for services, hyperbaric and red light and today, we're going to talk about Pilates and why it's a part of what we call the Total Human Protocol. It's also a part of our 918 chiropractic practice. And so this beautiful lady sitting next to me, her name is Michelle Johnson. She is nationally certified Pilates instructor. To be transparent, I've watched her work. I've not done the classes. And so I'm being honest about that, but I have sought out lots of other feedback, not just from your clients currently, but from your previous clients. She was living in Naples and then came to Tulsa. When'd you move to Tulsa?
We've been here a little bit over a year now.
A little bit over a year. So, and you've been with us at the office.
I think we're coming up on almost our year.
Cool. So you came in and then we met not long after that.
Yeah.
And transparency, the appeal is that she was in a market which was saturated with Pilates instructors, and she excelled in that market. And so when she decided that she was going to do Pilates here in Tulsa, she worked a little bit somewhere else, and I heard about her, and we aggressively went after her, and we got her. So I just wanted to bring you in and introduce you to Michelle. I'll be transparent. Some of the things and what she does, and I've seen her do with some of the clients, is nothing short of amazing. It's not physical therapy. It's not just training. It's not just Pilates. There's a human connection there. There's an attachment to breath there. There's an attachment to core and an understanding for people. And I think if that's something you're into, then she's the lady for that. But I'll shut up. I want to hear more about what got you into Pilates and really why you were like working with a chiropractor right next to you all the time.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for the huge introduction.
Yeah.
I love feeling all great about me. First question you asked me was, how did I get into Pilates? Well, I was a dental hygienist for 30 years prior to actually getting my certification in Pilates. And for me, the repetitive movement that I was doing, bent over, rotated, hunched over, became debilitating, and I was losing the feeling in my hands. So I didn't think I was going to be able to practice any longer. I found the Pilates methodology when I was back in Fort Worth, Texas, with the Pilates Center and Heather Bradkey, who's amazing, and started working with her and noticed that all my symptoms went away. And it bought me another about 7 years of practice as a hygienist before I finally gave that up and pursued the method more to become a fitness professional in this area. So working side by side with you is fantastic for me because I love science. Coming from a hygiene background, I'm result oriented. I love to have great results. I can't imagine doing Pilates any longer without having the x-rays, your knowledge, and the spine to look at like a roadmap. It clearly defines to me where I need to go. So when I look at a body, I'm treating the individual. I'm not doing cookie cutter, every canned Instagram style Pilates. You, me, Mitchell, our goal is to get that body in front of us working to its optimal best.
I think that people often, especially in volume offices or places that see a lot of people, certain clubs that maybe do Pilates, or offices and chiropractic offices that maybe don't take x-rays. What sets us apart and our practitioners are apart, I believe, is customized care to each client, because each human is a different human and they don't all have the same things. I've been looking at spines and you've been looking at bodies for years.
Right.
And I don't know that I've ever seen the exact same one ever.
No. And like you were saying, it's so much energy and intuition about watching who they are, what they do every day, how they process, how they think. That all goes into play in how they maintain their posture and what they do on a daily basis.
What's important to note here is that when we work together, if she's having an issue, we grab a picture. And I don't take like a picture on your phone. We grab an x-ray, and then we take a measurement of said x-ray. Then we read the x-ray with the client and the instructor. I read it to both of them at the same time so that everyone is on the same page about, hey, this person has got a fusion at the lower segments of the spine. They don't need to go in extension. This would be terrible for them. What that does for us at the clinic is it allows me to know that she understands what's going on. It allows her to be able to get the client what they need specific to them and not a guess.
Yeah, totally. So just like the dentist that came to me, she came to me first as a Pilates client through word of mouth, and she divulged to me that she'd been having tailbone pain for a very, very long time and was very frustrated because she wasn't being heard and they were brushing her off and people weren't really giving her credit for the discomfort that she was having. So she came to me, I worked with her for a little bit, and just from watching her try to move, I told her, I think there's something more here that we're missing, and I'd love for you to go see Dr. Matt. Let's get some x-rays, and let's come together as a team approach. And what a great success that's been, because through those x-rays, you were able to find exactly what we thought was going on and more. And she has been so thankful for that. And the progress she's making now, just from the little bit of chiro care that you've done and the connections that we're getting, it's just amazing.
I know you saw her today.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I haven't got to ask. But the thing is exactly that. I think it's finding the detail, understanding it, because here's what I know for a fact. In Pilates, in any type of healthcare and chiropractic care, if we can get to the diagnosis as quickly as possible,
Right.
then we can put together the correct plan to go towards the correct thing and we achieve your goals faster. Yo, I want in, right? Because I don't want to guess. I hate that. I've been in that place, and I don't know if you've been in that place where it's like, it's been a month. I should have figured this out already. I don't want that. And as a client, they don't want to pay for that. Well, you're figuring it out.
Right.
So I love the fact that you're open to say, hey, let's look at a picture. This isn't working like it's supposed to. I see or feel something's not right. Let's take a picture. Let's take a measurement and look at that. I think it's a wonderful thing. Tell me, and this is interesting, and sometimes we'll sit around the office or in between clients and have conversations. And one of the things that I don't know that I ever rationalized or understood in a linear fashion was the different types of core. Now, I've studied the anatomy in absolute detail, and that's what I have to work with. That's my medicine day in and day out is
Right.
the anatomy. And that's fun, and I like that, and that's cool. But to hear, I was like, you talking about different definitions of different cores, and I don't know that I ever heard it that way.
Yeah.
But it makes sense and it resonates with me. So share with me about that.
So you've seen the analysis of the boxes, right? So that's my analysis of, so you guys deal with skeletal structure. I deal with musculature. So when I'm looking at the body and I'm doing my evaluation, to me, I have 3 cores, just like you guys look at 3 boxes. So I would have the upper core to me, which is all of the back from here to about the thoracic, right? And then I go from thoracic to pelvis, and that would be my central core. And then I work on the bottom core, which would be your hips, your glutes, and things like that. And they have to all come into harmony to get the perfect functional movement. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and I like the term harmony anyways. It's something I've been meditating a lot. You know, you hear work-life balance, which I think is junk. Because it is,
Yeah.
right? Like it's work-life balance is junk. Because I'm sorry I'm going off a tangent, but I'm bringing this back in a second. The harmony of it is music is harmony. And sometimes you need more drums, and sometimes you need more horns, and sometimes like let's get the little, what is the shaker thing? Like let's get one of those.
The tambourine?
Yeah, that. The tambourine. And that's harmony. That's harmony. And so like in the human body, if you're looking at it from the perspective of I've got these 3 cores and they have to work in harmony with each other, there may be one that needs more. The upper thoracic needs more. We need more drums up here.
Right.
We need to pull that back so that it works in harmony with the other.
Right.
And so I'm sorry, but it's just, I really feel like that's a wild thing because I've been meditating on harmony, not balance.
Woo.
And you said it, so I appreciate that. Go ahead. I went off a tangent there.
No, that's it. I'm good. So I think a lot of times people will have problems with their hip and they don't realize it's coming from the shoulder. So it's really lovely to have your eyes, my eyes, Mitchell's eyes, and that we can all come together and evaluate, because obviously you're going to see something different. I'm going to see something different. But the great thing is the outcome is what we put together.
Another thing I was thinking about as we got ready to prepare for podcast and how we work together, and you're 100% right. I look at the osseous structure, and if I can affect the osseous structure or the bone structure, typically for me, then I'm going to affect the nervous system, because I work with what the central nervous system is, but then it goes out to all the other things, and that's where you fall into line there when it comes to the muscular structure and how you're going to fire those things and how you're going to wire those things.
Right.
But in our clinical practice, we see so many people with all different types of spines. And so that's a very important thing for us to take a picture, take a measurement. I will say, caveat, if your chiro's not taking an x-ray or a measurement, you should question them, please. Even honestly, like what we've learned so far, if your Pilates instructor doesn't have access to that, you should question it, right? Because there could be limitations that you don't see. All that being said,
I hate to guess.
Yeah, why?
That's just not.
It's 2025.
How I am.
We don't have to anymore.
I can make a decent evaluation. Yeah. However, I know that if I've worked with someone for 5, 6, 7, 8 times, and my intuition is going, there's something more, to trust that and step aside and hand it over for a minute, because it'll come back and it'll be so much better. And
I also think that like over time in clinical practice, trusting your gut, trusting your intuition, then running the test, and then it confirms that intuition and it strengthens your resolve. Like then you start to listen a little, like, okay, I did. Yep, I got it. Yep, we've got that. Yep, we've nailed that. But I went on to jump into from there really just the conversation of different spines with different problems all take different types of care. Right. And I see a lot of patients that come in, and I'm even sitting all crooked and crazy, whatever.
Yeah.
But like that come in and they've got like the Quasimodo spine and they're all arched over, and it's like I can help them with that some, and I can get that to straighten back up some depending on the degeneration and how much the spine and osteophytosis and all the things, bone spurs, etc. What is it a Pilates instructor, like what would you do with a person that had a lateral list or to change the overall posture? What is like, how do you lean into that?
So first thing we do is we start with breath work. And I think what you're alluding to here is if we've got someone with scoliosis or spondylosis.
Or a list, or like, hey, I've been running, I'm a graphic artist and or graphic designer, and I've been drawing like this for 30 years and like the spine is rotated, etc. Now I know what I would do, right? I know how I do that, and I know how we do that together, but they don't know.
So depending upon the person, there's a couple of really cool techniques you can go into. Couple of different methodologies, one of which I'd like to touch on is the Schroth method.
Yeah.
That was a methodology that came around in the early 1900s by, and I'm going to butcher her name, help me, Katharina Schroth. She was a school teacher and she had scoliosis herself. She developed this method of what they call, I believe they call it angular rotational breathing. So just pause there. In comes Joseph Pilates, also early 1900s. His foundation to his entire practice is breathing, breath work. We do diaphragmatic breathing. So we breathe out to get the thoracic to move. What we have found is in scoliosis and people who have different conditions and different types of spinal deformities, I don't like to use that word, but that's what it is that you can use intentional breathing. Eve Gentry, who was studied underneath Joseph Pilates, came up with one lung breathing, where you can actually mentally force the breath to a certain area to move the spine towards a neutral position. So it's really pretty cool.
Do that again, please. One lung.
One lung.
So you're going to tell me that I'm going through the left?
You have no lung. Because you have no nostril today.
That's good. I got to get cut out of there for sure. But one lung breathing. Tell me, I don't get it. I don't understand it.
Okay, right.
It's like a balloons, right? Like you're filling up a balloon and pushing it that
correct.
way?
So her thought process, so you couple that with Schroth, and then you bring in Eve Gentry, who was a direct descendant underneath Joseph Pilates. She took what Eve Katarina Schroth had started, and she sort of expounded on it. And so I am right there with you. It sounded like voodoo to me too, until I actually witnessed it in one of our clients who has I think he's a 2-curve, convex on the right, concave on the left.
Uh-huh.
And so I put in, this is called a Pilates arc, and I do side lying breathing here. And so we elongate the spine and we put the rib cage up. I go to convex side down. I have them turn the head slightly, and I have them focus the breath into just the left lung, which is going to inflate that side of the body. What it does is it opens the rib cage.
Uh-huh.
And
Gaps the whole side of it.
Right. So it allows the rib cage to open. It allows the diaphragm to kind of go into this area, and it helps them to find neutral spine. Are we going to completely eradicate that curve? No. However, it will help over time, done with repetition,
Sure,
to prolong the degeneration of the spine, or at least keep it maintained.
Well, it makes sense, right? Like, as we talk about how does degeneration of the spine, articulations that articulate incorrectly, postures change, you start to develop osteophytosis or bone spurring, where it degenerates some of the vertebrae in there. Like doing something like that makes sense. So what she's saying is the convex. So I'm from Arkansas. I don't know if you guys know that. So I try to simplify a lot of things. She's saying rainbows and U's. Right? She's saying rainbows and U's, and the U is going down, which arcs the patient over so they gap and open up the intercostals and spread those apart. She's just really intelligent. I have to talk about rainbows and U's. But I think makes a lot of actual sense. Tell me about what that looks like for a client long term. Like, in other words, like when you're going through that training protocol, first you're trying to initiate what? Initiate motion in there and breath in there, and then we're trying to move to there from a dynamic system movement, or how does that look?
Right. So if you have someone who's completely imbalanced in their spinal column, right, the first thing we've got to do is get the pelvis underneath them so we can train from a neutral position as much as possible. So I have to get the breath. I have to teach them how to move the breath, which in turn helps them to engage the core better, right? So long term, once we start to get the proper breath pattern for that body, it helps them to find the firing process better in the core stabilizers, which in turn is going to keep the spine stabilized longer.
We've been working together for a year, and I have seen you and hear you. I hear your cues, and breathe in and hold and release, I think is what it is. I don't know. I mean, I can't
Inhale,
even see
exhale.
I can't even see what you're doing. I can just hear it back there in the room. And I guess I just didn't understand the fact that controlling the breath was that its basic core for Pilates, that it was like, I was under the impression that like, and raise your hand if you thought that too, because I really did think it was the cool machine with the springs and you guys are doing all of the things. And I know that you're like, I'm not an Instagram instructor, Pilates. And I guess I was like, I know you're not. I know, but I don't guess I even knew what an Instagram instructor Pilates person was. I was just thinking about the traditional thing that you do, the stretching and the springs and all that stuff. And I didn't always understand. I didn't until just now understand the breath.
Joseph Pilates, came up with the methodology, and breath was his number one emphasis over everything else. This breath, control, precision, flow, and it goes on. He started with mat work. There was no machine.
Oh, wow.
At all. And so the science behind what he was trying to implement, and you know this by watching rib cages that don't move. And so if we've got a static rib cage, the cervical and the lumbar take all the brunt, right? So what I do is I come in and I've got to teach you how to breathe first so that I can get movement in the rib cage. So the science is you've got to take a big enough inhale, but the inhale is not what's important. It's the proper amount of exhale. So you want to blow it out. I tell my clients to wrap the core, meaning try to find that core connection, because I need the ribs to come down so the diaphragm moves out of the way. If this doesn't move out of the way, the rest of the abdominal chain can't fire properly. It just doesn't happen. So people get stuck in what I call inspiration breath, right? They breathe really shallow. They never fully exhale. They breathe really shallow. So thus, all those core stabilizers are never getting tapped into. So that's really what I start with is the breath first, then we move into the core. It's kind of like a symphony. Inhale, exhale, draw the core up and in, and then the transverse and all those great stabilizers can come in.
We were discussing Pilates and me learning about the breath with Pilates. And so in chiropractic, what I look at and what's helped me to be successful, and it wasn't even that I learned that in school, it was that when I looked at the thoracic cage, we started to take measurements of the x-rays. I would say, okay, well, if the thoracic cage is posteriorly translated, so it's pushed back 2 inches, the patient almost always has lower back pain, or they almost always have neck pain. Right. So that's what I see in my clinical practice. And what happens is more times than not, they've seen 6 other chiros. And then they have I did the chiropractic thing and it didn't work for me. I was like, because then no one measured it to translate the rib cage to a different place. And so what I'm understanding now is that Pilates at its essence and basis is really about finding the breath. I think you used Joseph Pilates. What did you say? Precision, flow, and mo or something? I don't know. What was that?
So it goes breath.
Okay, I was not right. Okay, breath.
No, that's his number one.
Okay.
I mean, he says, you came in breathing, you go out breathing. Breath is life. And that's so true. And so we'll just pause at that one because you could go down. He has 6 modalities that you go on down. Precision control, centering, flow, and I'm caught off guard at the moment.
No, it's cool.
I should know.
But I mean, I just wanted the breath. I had no idea what that was the basis and foundation. I hear you have cues to clients and patients.
Right.
But I thought it was to when I'm doing squats, I'm breathing because I'm trying to build power.
Right.
Yeah. But this is different what you're doing and how you're talking about engaging the deep core muscles using the breath.
It's funny because I was working with a fellow client of ours when I first started working with her. I couldn't get her to breathe. Because she was, I don't know, people we're so bound up about making noise anymore. And I'm like, you have to breathe. You have to get the exhalation out for this to work properly. Trust me, trust the process. And I was working with her yesterday and we were doing some pretty good core work. She's really, really advancing. She's really starting to find that center core. And she looked at me and she goes, wow, this breath thing is really what it's all about. And I'm like, yeah, it really is. And so once I can get them to get that, everything else comes into place because the body will automatically, it becomes imprinted that when I take the inhale and I tell them, you inhale first, start your exhale, find your core connection, then move. And I kind of run it like a symphony like that. So if you were doing core work with me and I wanted you to lift your leg up, let's say you're laying on the floor. In order to protect that back, before you lift that leg up in the air, I need the core wrapped so the back is protected so now we can lift the leg up.
So me making those noises in the gym is fine then?
Absolutely. Music to my ear.
I love that. And I don't think I honestly understood that was at its basis, and that's valuable to me. Yeah.
So think about it. If you didn't breathe and you were laying on the floor and you had no core connection and I asked you to lift your leg up off the floor, what's normally going to happen is people are going to compensate. They're going to throw their pelvis forward. They're going to use their low back and they're going to throw that leg up and then they get to come see you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is okay.
Yeah.
Maybe keep doing that. We'll fix you when you get to the office.
Right. So that's what I try to impress upon people is it has to work for Pilates. Maybe not weightlifting, maybe not something else. But for Pilates, for what I'm trying to accomplish in there is it has to come together like a symphony. Inhale, start the exhale, find the core connection, execute the move. And it works.
And it creates the stability because you're with the exhale, it's the squeeze.
It's not like it's a point A, point B, point C. It's fluid.
Yeah.
But it goes in this lovely rhythm.
Because at its essence as well, it's creating the stability from which all things hinge from, which would be the core. And so if we're looking at it from a extension point or a place of the legs, for instance, we're still recruiting from the basis, which would be the core. It's just that they have a methodology that teaches for you to get there in the right place. And And to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like I don't love the ab wheel stuff and all of the crazy core workouts anyways. I mean, I actually hurt my knee the other day doing a dumb ab wheel. And like had I could have just been breathing, like way better, you know? But I mean,
like,
and I'm not being
like,
negative. I'm just saying like, holy smokes, like if you are, and I think that there's this connotation as well that and I'm going to tell you right now, she sees a whole bunch of males. There's guys rolling back there that there is a gentleman. How old is Duncan?
Oh gosh, Duncan.
And I don't care. He wouldn't care if we said his name.
No. Duncan was great. He got my Real Men Do Pilates t-shirt. Duncan is 76.
This guy is doing these crazy push-up things with one arm at 76 years old that I can't even attempt. And what it is I've got way bigger muscles, just so we're clear. But he finds that recruitment and is able to anchor into the core and then do the thing, and it's amazing. And so that's where I was like, I don't know what she's doing back there, but that old guy could kick my butt in a lot of those things.
When I first got Duncan, he came to me because he was in pain. And he came walking in. Of course, he's just this tall, drink water, skinny thing. And he had like one shoulder up here and one hip out here. And I was like, well, no wonder you're in pain. But we finally got all those imbalances and the bad biomechanics that had developed from that under control. And man, he soared. He was soaring. So that's really fun. I love to watch that.
And at 76 years old, the guy's moving like a 40-year-old. And so, and just to kind of wrap this up as to what we're trying to do here is we're really just trying to provide you some information for options for things that are done clinically correct. The boxes have been checked. The safety boxes have been checked. We're doing this in a manner like if we're taking on that type of clientele and we're also taking on young people clientele to be able to manage both of those, you cannot treat them the same way.
No.
You cannot throw that many people in a class all of a sudden and treat that. And I think that was one of your least favorite things was having 65 people or maybe 20 people that were all at different levels. It's not doing you the service that you're looking for. And I want you to know if that's something you're looking for, you can find it because we have it. Total Human Protocol. She also goes under Evolve Pilates, 918 Chiropractic. There's 3 different ways that I just gave you. You guys could reach out and get in touch with her. But what's important, I think, to know that she's being a little shy about is the attention to detail and the caring of her heart. I think it's important that like if you're going to have a clinician, they need to care for you as a human and not care about you as a client. Does that make sense to you there? What I mean by that, the difference is saying like, yes, I care for my clients, but you care for your people as a human.
Yeah.
Like I've seen you bring protein shakes for people.
Probably too much.
I'm not bringing you a protein shake. Like, you know what I mean? I did not get anybody a Pilates t-shirt.
Guilty.
But if that's something you're looking for in that type of connection, I think that that's valuable.
Yeah.
And I think that it makes an impact. It definitely has on Duncan's life. And I can give you a list of people's names that she's made an impact on that I have personally seen. Some of them my clients that I've been seeing for a long period of time, and some of them clients that have been both of our we call it symbiotic clients where we work together.
Mm-hmm.
I've not once seen one client that's come out of working with you. I mean, sometimes they're sore, but I've not seen one that's come out of working with you that's not gotten or achieved the results, or at least you've got 3 pages of notes on them to figure out what those results are.
It's always a work in progress.
Yeah. And I think that you making these custom plans for people and building it for them is important to note. And I want that story to be told.
Thank you.
Fair. I really want to say thanks, Michelle, for even taking the time. We do these on Friday afternoons after the week is over and when you really don't want to be here doing this, but you did it. And really appreciate that. Also, I just want you to know we value you very much in the practice. And so you bring a specific energy to the office. There is a light that happens when you come in. And so when you show up, I hope there's a little sunshine already because I was already there. But when you show up, we know you're there and we appreciate that you are there.
We have a great, great group. Really blessed.
I agree.
Thank you.
Thanks again. Check us out on the Total Human Protocol.